Parents, I'm about to tell you something that goes against everything our culture teaches us about raising children. Donald Winnicott discovered that boredom isn't something you should rush to fix for your child. In fact, he found that boredom is absolutely essential for healthy emotional development. And when you constantly rescue your child from feeling bored, you're actually preventing them from developing crucial psychological skills they'll need for the rest of their lives. I know this sounds counterintuitive. Everything in our modern world tells us that children should be constantly stimulated, entertained, and engaged. We have endless activities, classes, screens, and toys designed to keep kids busy every second of the day. But Winnicott discovered something profound. It's in those moments of boredom, those spaces where nothing is happening, the children do some of their most important psychological work. Let me explain what Winnicott meant by boredom and why it's so crucial. When he talked about boredom, he wasn't talking about the frustrated, restless feeling that adults often experience. He was talking about something much deeper, the capacity to be alone with yourself, to sit with emptiness, and to allow your inner world to emerge without external stimulation. This is what he called the ability to be alone in the presence of another. Think about what happens when your child says they're bored. Your instinct is probably to immediately offer solutions. Why don't you play with your toys? Want to watch a movie? Let's do a craft project. But Winnicott would tell you to pause before you jump into fix-it mode. That moment of boredom is actually a precious opportunity for your child's psychological development. Here's what's really happening when your child is bored. They're being forced to turn inward, to connect with their own thoughts and feelings, and to discover what they're genuinely interested in. They're learning to tolerate uncomfortable feelings without immediately seeking external relief. They're developing what psychologists call distress tolerance, which is the ability to sit with difficult emotions without being overwhelmed by them. But here's the key part that many parents miss. Your child needs to feel bored in your presence while feeling secure and supported. This isn't about abandoning them or leaving them to figure everything out alone. It's about being available and emotionally present while allowing them to experience the discomfort of having nothing to do. Winnicott called this good enough mothering, or good enough parenting. You're not constantly entertaining your child, but you're also not neglecting them. You're creating what he called a facilitating environment where your child feels safe enough to be bored, to explore their inner world, and to discover their own resources for dealing with emptiness. Let me give you a real-life example. Your 6-year-old comes to you on a Saturday morning and says, "I'm bored. There's nothing to do." Instead of immediately jumping into activity director mode, you might say something like, "Oh, that sounds uncomfortable. I'm going to be here reading my book if you need me." Then you sit with them in that space, available but not rescuing. What happens next is magical. At first, your child might feel frustrated or restless. They might whine or complain. But if you can resist the urge to fix it, something wonderful starts to happen. They begin to look inward. Maybe they start to notice things they hadn't seen before. Maybe they begin to imagine or daydream. Maybe they discover a genuine interest in something that was always there but got buried under constant stimulation. This process teaches your child that they have inner resources, that they can survive uncomfortable feelings, and that they don't need external entertainment to be okay. These are incredibly valuable life skills that will serve them well into adulthood. Now, let's talk about what happens when parents constantly rescue their children from boredom. Children who are never allowed to be bored often develop what Winnicott called a false self. They become dependent on external stimulation to feel okay. They lose touch with their own interests, creativity, and inner life because they never have the space to discover these things. Think about the child who has every minute of their day scheduled with activities, who always has a screen available when they feel even slightly unstimulated, who never has to sit with empty time. This child might look busy and accomplished on the outside, but inside they're often anxious and disconnected from themselves. They don't know how to be alone with their thoughts, and they panic when there's nothing external to occupy their mind. These children often grow into adults who can't tolerate stillness, who always need to be doing something or consuming something to feel okay. They might become addicted to their phones, to constant busyness, or to other forms of external stimulation, because they never learned that it's safe and valuable to be alone with themselves. Winnicott also discovered that boredom is where creativity is born. When children are constantly stimulated, they don't have the space to let their own ideas emerge. Creativity requires emptiness, silence, and the freedom to let your mind wander. When you're always being entertained, you don't develop the ability to entertain yourself or to create something new. I want you to think about some of the most creative moments in your own life. Chances are, they didn't happen when you were busy or stimulated. They probably happened during quiet moments, maybe when you were taking a walk, sitting in nature, or just letting your mind wander. Children need these same opportunities to connect with their creative potential. Here's something that might surprise you. Winnicott found that the capacity to be bored is actually a sign of emotional health. It means your child feels secure enough to tolerate uncomfortable feelings. It means they trust that they're safe even when nothing exciting is happening. It means they have a strong enough sense of self to exist without constant external validation or stimulation. But there's a crucial difference between healthy boredom and problematic boredom. Healthy boredom happens when a child feels secure and supported but temporarily unstimulated. Problematic boredom happens when a child feels abandoned, neglected, or unsafe. The key is your presence and availability, even when you're not actively entertaining. So how do you help your child develop a healthy relationship with boredom? First, resist the urge to immediately fix it when they say they're bored. Instead of offering solutions, try reflecting their feeling. You might say something like, "It sounds like you're feeling restless," or "That can be an uncomfortable feeling." This validates their experience without immediately trying to change it. Second, stay present and available. This doesn't mean you have to entertain them, but it does mean they should feel that you're emotionally accessible if they need you. You might be doing your own quiet activity nearby, available for connection, but not actively engaging unless they initiate it. Third, avoid the temptation to suggest activities right away. Give your child time to sit with the boredom and see what emerges. If they continue to struggle after a reasonable amount of time, you might offer some gentle suggestions, but try to let them come up with their own solutions first. Fourth, model healthy boredom yourself. Let your child see you sitting quietly sometimes, not always busy or stimulated. Show them that it's okay to have moments where nothing particular is happening. This teaches them that boredom is a normal part of life, not a problem to be solved. Now, I wanted to address something that many parents worry about. You might be thinking, but what if my child never finds something to do? What if they just sit there feeling miserable? This is a valid concern, and Winnicott would say that your job is to be attuned to your child's needs. If they're genuinely struggling and the boredom is becoming distressing rather than productive, it's okay to offer some gentle support. The goal isn't to make your child suffer. It's to help them develop the capacity to tolerate mild discomfort and to discover their own resources. If your child seems to be moving from boredom toward genuine distress, that's a sign that they might need more support or that the timing isn't right. It's also important to understand that building tolerance for boredom is a gradual process. If your child is used to constant stimulation, they might initially struggle more with empty time. Start small. Maybe it's just 10 minutes of unstimulated time while you're nearby. Gradually, as they develop the capacity to be alone with themselves, you can allow for longer periods of boredom. Here's another important point. The capacity to be bored is closely related to the capacity for deep relationships. When children learn to be comfortable alone with themselves, they're also learning to be comfortable with intimacy. They're developing the ability to be present with another person without needing constant entertainment or stimulation. This is a crucial foundation for healthy relationships throughout life. Winnicott also noticed that children who can tolerate boredom tend to be more empathetic and emotionally intelligent. When you're comfortable with your own inner world, you're better able to attune to others' inner worlds. You're not constantly seeking external stimulation, so you can be more present and responsive to the people around you. Let me share what this looks like in practice. Picture a family where boredom is allowed and even valued. The children in this family might spend time just sitting and thinking, or lying on the grass looking at clouds, or quietly observing their surroundings. They might start drawing or writing without being prompted. They might begin elaborate imaginary games that emerge from their own creativity rather than external suggestions. These children learn to trust their own minds and their own capacity to generate interesting thoughts and activities. They develop rich inner lives that sustain them even when they're alone. They become adults who can enjoy solitude, who don't need constant entertainment, and who can be present with others in deep and meaningful ways. On the other hand, children who are never allowed to be bored often become adults who struggle with anxiety, depression, and relationship difficulties. They might feel empty inside because they never learn to connect with their own inner resources. They might struggle with intimacy because they don't know how to be alone with themselves, let alone with another person. As we wrap up, I want you to think about your own relationship with boredom. How comfortable are you with empty time? Do you immediately reach for your phone when you have a quiet moment? Do you always need to be doing something or consuming something to feel okay? Your own relationship with boredom will influence how you respond to your child's boredom. Remember, when your child says they're bored, they're not presenting you with a problem to solve. They're presenting you with an opportunity to help them develop one of the most important psychological skills they'll ever learn: the ability to be alone with themselves and to find meaning and creativity in emptiness. So the next time your child complains about being bored, take a deep breath and resist the urge to immediately fix it. Instead, sit with them in that space, available and supportive, but not rescuing. You might just be giving them the gift of discovering their own inner richness, creativity, and capacity for self-sufficiency. And that's a gift that will serve them for the rest of their lives.